All right, everyone. Welcome back to Keeping It Real. This is episode number 4 with my good friend Sam Schaus. Sam is with Keller Williams, and he has been in real estate since he was 16, 17?
Yep. Bought my first house when I was 16.
Wow. I have some catching up to do. So, Sam, I just wanted to kind of give the floor to you and just tell us, like, what you're doing now. And I thought it was interesting when you were kind of in Wisconsin, your backstory of how you got into real estate and what kind of inspired you to, like, get into it, I guess, is the... I don't think anyone wakes up and they're like, I want to, go into real estate when they're 7. But as you get older, I think you start to realize you should be thinking that way. So.
Yeah, as we mature, right? Well, so for me, it all started for me when I actually read a book. It's called How to Be a Real Estate Millionaire. It sounds corny as hell.
It is.
But it was written by a guy, Dean Graziosi. And honestly, it blew my mind. It changed the way I thought about the world and money and real estate. It just flipped out everything on its head, and it changed the way I thought. And because of that, I just looked at things a little bit differently.
Okay.
And, a lot of my friends in high school, all they were concerned about is, girls number one, of course.
Yeah.
I was too, obviously. But, they're all just buying trucks, and jacking them up, tinting them, putting exhaust on them.
Diesel trucks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was buying houses.
Wow.
So that book, I credit it 100%.
And was it was there something particular in the book where it was because I think when you're in your high school, you're just looking at your paycheck and how to make money and working for money. So was it something that you were just, hey, I don't need to necessarily work for money. I need to figure out some sort of investment, or what was the...
To find something more passive. But, in that book, they touched on wholesaling. Have you ever heard of wholesaling?
I have, yeah. I've seen I laugh because I hear the Facebook, or I see the ads for, the wholesale guys who are, they get the person on the phone, they get under contract, and they flip it pretty much.
Basically, you find a property that's distressed, and you lock up the property under contract, and the big part of that contract, it must say your name and or assigns.
Okay.
As a buyer, which means that you can assign that contract to anybody.
Gotcha.
And you just flip the house to a different buyer for a fee, almost like you're an agent, but you're not. So I would get these properties under contract, and I would find the next buyer.
Okay.
So the seller, in a way, thought I was going to close on the home, but the and or assigns meant that I could close on it, or someone I assigned the contract could close on it. And then they had a price and I had a price, and I would
keep the difference.
I would keep the difference.
And what year was that? And were you using social media to find buyers, or how were you? This was
like 2008, 2009.
Okay.
2010. I think 2010 was the last year I did one of those wholesale deals.
So is that post crash, or was it?
Pretty much at the crash.
At the crash.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all my friends gave me shit in high school because I read that book, of course.
Yeah.
And that guy built his fortune on bandit signs. And bandit signs are these 3x2 signs that say "We buy ugly houses."
Oh, okay. Yeah, like telephone poles.
I put those bastards everywhere.
Okay.
Everywhere. And it said, "We buy houses, ugly houses. Here's my number."
Yeah.
Right.
Sam Schaus.
Yeah, exactly. And I would go at 4 a.m. or at 10 o'clock at night and just put them everywhere. So people couldn't really take them, right?
Yeah.
And then on their way to work, they'd see it.
It's like a numbers game, right?
Exactly. Yeah. They'd all get stolen.
Yeah.
But the next week, boom, I'd put 25 more out, and my phone would blow up.
Wow.
And
so that was your lead gen source.
This was my lead gen source.
Wow.
And in 2008, people were begging me to buy their home.
Okay. This was as they were trying to get foreclosed on, pretty much.
Basically.
Wow.
And I helped a lot of people avoid foreclosure and short sale.
Wow.
You would think they would just call an agent to sell their home, but apparently they're worried about the 6% commission, which is very limited mindset, in my opinion.
Yeah, so that helps. So they were worried about that 6%. So instead, you would either buy it yourself or wholesale it.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of times I would buy it myself if it's a really sweet deal.
Yeah.
I knew where I could turn it, fix it up, flip it, or maybe it would be a good rental. But sometimes it was in a location where I just didn't want any part of. And then in that case, I would try and find the next buyer.
That's crazy. That's crazy that people were, well, I guess it depends on how upside down they were, but I would think if you're you never want to go into bankruptcy and foreclosure.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Sell before then. So at
Right.
least like reaching out to an agent or something, like coming up with a plan of like, hey, if this guy with the sign we just called doesn't work out.
Right.
So you're wholesaling in Wisconsin. You're buying some properties yourself. Your friends are making fun of you. How long, you're in high school. Was there a thought of going to college, or this is what you were doing, or?
Not really, because I was having so much fun with it.
Yeah.
And I was making good money.
I bet.
Of course, my parents wanted to go to college. I actually did end up going to a trade school for heavy equipment operating, and I got my operator's license to run bulldozers, excavators, motor graders, skid steers, stuff like that. And then it also came with a CDL class, so I went through that.
Okay.
And so when we were slow at work in summer, when there was no trucking to do and no earthwork to do, I would go and haul propane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, family propane business?
Yeah, so we had a family propane business.
Okay.
My parents started it from nothing.
Wow.
We sold that a little while ago, but they started it from nothing, and it was an interesting experience. Luckily I was able to go through that CDL school and get I got my tanker and hazmat license to haul propane.
So you have a clean background then, because that is
super clean. And you can't smoke.
Yeah.
You can't do drugs. You can't do anything. You have to keep a clean whistle for sure. So. Yeah, so I would haul propane to people's homes, deliver propane in winter, and then I would focus on real estate in the summer when there was no propane to haul in summer.
Sure.
Yeah, so it worked out really well. They complemented each other. So all the money that I made in winter, I just focused on saving for summer so I could buy homes and fix them up.
Yeah. And that's awesome. What was like the price point in your market? Because I know maybe some people are listening.
You're going to laugh. $16,000 I bought my first house for. And it was a 4-bedroom.
Wow.
A 4-bedroom home for $16,000. Yeah.
That,
1.6, not 6.0, 1.6.
That is like the price. That's the price of a 2001 Tacoma here.
Boom.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Exactly.
And was it like a suburban area? Is it kind of, did you know the area well, the market pretty well?
I lived about 40 minutes south of Green Bay, Wisconsin. That's where I bought my first property, in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would drive up, and that's where everybody wanted to be, in my opinion. I didn't know any better back then. I was like 16 or 17 years old, and I just wanted to be where all the action was. And I was a huge Green Bay Packers fan. Okay. So this was like 10 minutes from the stadium.
Yeah.
So it was super cool.
Yeah.
We had a lot of parties there and stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I bet the kid, you didn't need permission. It's not like your parents had to go away. You own the house.
Yeah. And I lived 40 minutes from them, so there's a lot of stuff that went on in that house that they never knew about.
Oh man. So you're at some point you leave Wisconsin, you end up in Hawaii. So what was that transition? What brought you? I'm from Connecticut, which is not as cold, but I kind of understand maybe why you wanted to leave Wisconsin winters.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple things that went on. So I had built up enough savings where I had wholesaled enough homes over the years where I got my confidence to a level where I thought to myself, I can do this anywhere in any market. And in my mind, Hawaii is someplace I always wanted to be. And I just didn't quite know how to get there. I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
I was really going blind. And I remember I had a really good friend in high school that he always wanted to get the hell out of Wisconsin too.
Okay.
And so we'd always talk about having a trip. And we were really slow one summer, and I called him up. His name was Tyler, and I said, Tyler, let's go to Hawaii, man. He's like, why? You're crazy.
Yeah.
But we went, and him and I stayed in Waikiki for 2 months, and we just partied our asses off every single day. Every single day, and shouted at the girls, and hit the bars. But this was in 2008 when everything tanked.
Okay.
Nobody was hiring. We tried so hard to find work over there because we fell in love with Waikiki.
Yeah.
It's a magical place when you're young, especially when you're young. I mean,
Yeah.
there's girls everywhere. There's the beach scene.
And
there's
bikinis.
a bar vibe,
Yeah.
bikinis.
Yeah.
It's heaven on earth, you know.
Yeah.
So we tried frantically to move there as quickly as possible, but we both couldn't get jobs. Nobody was hiring. Nobody was hiring. I must have filled out 55 applications.
Wow.
Yeah.
Versus today, where it's the opposite. The market today, they'll give you a signing bonus to work. They can't find workers.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so our trip was coming to an end, and I remember picking up a newspaper. I forget the name of the paper, but it showed Kilauea erupting. And I said to Tyler, dude, we're only here for another week. Let's go to Big Island. Let's just jet over there. We had no money. We had no money
2 months
whatsoever.
in, no job.
No
bunch
job,
of
no
bars.
money. We're like, okay, this sucks. We have to go home.
Yeah.
You know, so we hopped in a jet. We had like $300 combined.
Yeah.
We landed in Hilo Airport, and we stuck our thumbs in the air.
Oh, frick, man. Two white guys.
Yeah, 2 white guys sticking their thumbs in the air. We got hitchhiked. We hitchhiked all the way to the volcano.
Okay.
It just happened to still be erupting. When we got down there, you're not going to believe this, we just happened to run into this guy that was also from our hometown in Manitowoc, Wisconsin.
Can you say that one more time?
Manitowoc, Wisconsin.
Manitowoc.
It's a tongue twister.
Okay.
Yeah, Manitowoc, Wisconsin. We totally hit it off. He took us right to where the lava flow was happening. Tyler and I had a dream. We always wanted to poke the lava with sticks.
Okay.
It sounds stupid, but when you do it, it's unreal.
Yeah.
Okay. I just remember when I left that trip, I literally had a tear in my eye when I boarded that plane out of here. I said to myself, I am moving back here. I don't care what I have to do, but I am moving back here.
And that you fell in love with the Big Island, even though you'd been in Waikiki?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. It's had a much more country feel.
Yeah.
And that connection I felt with the land when I was right next to the earth being born.
Yeah.
That was life-changing.
Yeah. It's a different, you have to be open to it. I don't know. I'm not the expert on it, but it's definitely if you're here and you can be open to it and you respect it, it's like, it's incredible the different energy that's on the island. And I'm not someone who's into all of that, but I know what you mean. When you're there and it's literally earth being born in front of your eyes, it's like it's very different.
It's incredible. Yeah. And we got so close. I mean, I had no eyebrows after we were done. We had to get the photos, right next to the lava coming at you. And all the hair was singed off of my legs, and the soles on the bottom of my shoes were flat because they had melted.
Just melted off.
Yeah, because we were going over crusted lava at night, and in the crack, you could see the red glow in the cracks, and we were walking over that. Oh my gosh. We were young at the time.
Yeah,
and we could have easily died.
Yeah.
We didn't know any better.
Breathing it all in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mama wasn't there to tell us not to do it, so we did it. We're still alive. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you did that, and then you obviously came back and moved here at some point.
It took me 5 years from the end of that trip to actually officially move here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then moved back here. You obviously want to work in real estate. You're now a very accomplished, high-producing real estate agent. But what was your coming back to the island? I'm sure you're a little bit worried about what the heck you're going to do for work. Like, what was that kind of the beginnings of Sam Schaus creating his career here? Because I think I can relate to this as well, is you don't have the market size of the mainland here, and you have a lot of money that comes in with tourism, but you don't have a lot of people that necessarily live here, especially in the Big Island. Oahu is a little bit more condensed.
Yeah.
So you start to learn, you're like, you kind of have to work in real estate, or you have to work in tourism, or you have to work in, you don't have there's opportunity, I would say, to take advantage of people not answering the phone and people not wanting to work hard and all that stuff, but at the same time you don't have the huge market. So that, me yammering there, was essentially like, what was that first day on the ground here like for you? And
it was a little scary, and I had a really slow start in real estate, and I think it might have had something to do with the brokerage I was with prior to Keller Williams now.
Okay.
They didn't do a whole lot of training. Not that that's their fault. That's mostly my fault for not recognizing that. But later on, a couple years in, because it took me a couple years to get my feet going, in as a realtor, I put what I had learned selling propane into real estate. I went door to door I did a lot of door knocking in real estate when I first started.
Nice.
And I knew the positioning from knocking on doors in Wisconsin, because when we were slow in Wisconsin, there was no propane to haul.
Yeah.
So I was in charge of getting new accounts. I was the sales executive in the summer for the propane company.
Okay.
So I would go around and I would visit people in the country, and I would just look for a competitor's propane tank in the yard. And as soon as I saw their tank, I'd be pulling in their driveway, knocking on their door. And so I kind of knew how to position myself, how to bring the tone of my voice so it wasn't offensive and very polite. And I was very successful doing that.
Door knocking here for real estate.
Door knocking in Wisconsin. So I just took what I had known and learned doing that and brought it door knocking in Hawaii here.
Wow.
So, and people always think, okay, you can door knock, but you're going to get rejected. You're going to get the door slammed in your face.
Yeah.
That's not really true. It's all about how you present yourself and your body language.
Okay. What was what was the dialogue like here? So were you looking for people who wanted to sell, maybe people who maybe you were knocking on a renter's door who wanted to buy? Like, what was your...
My main goal was just to provide people value.
Okay.
I figured, why would they want to talk to me? Let's bring them something of value. So I would go and print off everything that had recently sold in the last 6 months. And I would just so you know, here's what everything is sold in the last couple of months. If you want to stay in touch, I could send you these automatically, and you just get them in your email. And people really appreciated that.
Yeah.
I was just keeping them informed with the local market. No pressure at all.
Yeah.
I
really like that because it's not... you ever listen to Gary Vee at all?
A little bit.
Yeah. So he's got this theory where it's jab, jab, right hook, which is like and the jabs are value, and then the right hook is when you ask. But you almost... And I think this is at least how I like to sell, in the sense of you don't ever ask. It's just sort of like, like you said, here's some value. Here's, what the market's doing. They're going to figure out what you do, but you're having a conversation with people versus knocking on a family's door and being like, hey, my name's Sam. I'm a real estate agent. I'd like to sell your house. It's like,
and nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about this howly guy coming in trying to sell homes.
Yeah. Versus,
they want you to go away.
Yeah. Versus saying, hey, here's what your neighborhood's been doing. Like, here's some insight information for you.
Yeah.
You build a connection with someone. That's just such a better approach because, like you said, people hate to door knock. But even the times that I've done cold calling, I've actually never done door knocking before, but cold calling is I switched the script. Is the first thing is I would say is, hey, I've nothing to sell you. I used to call on local businesses to try to sell them marketing services.
Okay, yeah.
So I would give them something for free. I'd be like, hey, here's what was I doing? I would give them either Google, the Google review cards. So I had a printer, so I'd print them out and say, hey, can I just print these out and give them to you? And 90% of people would say yes, and then you'd meet them, and I would never ask, never sell, but every single one of them asked how I could help their business.
Nice.
Because you would switch the dialogue around, and a lot of the times, it's not like you're kind of saying is maybe you meet a family that doesn't want to sell at all, but you just become friends with them.
Right.
Not everyone. You don't have to just go for the kill on
That's
everyone.
True. You can't go for the kill, especially if you're in real estate. This is a long haul game. I have people that I still stay in touch with that are in my database that are 4 and 5 and 6 years old.
Wow.
And they haven't done anything with me, but they still converse with me.
Yeah.
And I know, based on statistics and past sales, that they will eventually buy or sell.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, too, is like that campaign, which is, you can do through social media, or it sounds like an email campaign that you do, or whoever. But it's like people have dinner with other people golf with other people, and it's like, oh, yeah, no, I know Sam. They might have not used you before, and then they're like, oh, you know what? I was just looking through someone's, through a list of names, and your name was there, and then boom, there's your tie-in, right? And it's pretty incredible, and I think people need to know, like, people will remember you. It's just you have to give them a lot of reminders. You can't call them once and tell them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if you think about, people in the trades, who do you call when you need something, right? If you close your eyes and if you think of the word plumber, you should think of 1 or 2 people that come to your mind. I wanted to be the realtor. When people will close their eyes and they think of that 1 or 2 the first or the second realtor, I just wanted to be the number 1 or 2. I was okay with 2 because something might happen with 1.
Yeah. They might not like number 1, you know.
Yeah, or they move off island, which happened a lot during COVID.
Yeah.
So I really built my business off helping people that were not ready to buy or sell now.
Okay. So that was your kind of your focus.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing that. What was your, you know, I don't want to skip because I think there's a lot of people who might see you and they're like, wow, this guy's a top producing agent. You know, all he did was do a couple door knocks. And then what else did you do, you know, to build it up over the kind of the years?
Boatloads of open houses. When I first started, I was doing 3 open houses per week.
Okay. Visiting other open houses pretty much?
No, hosting my own open houses.
Okay.
And I didn't have listings then. So my broker at the time was generous enough to allow me to host his open houses.
Okay.
They were his signs, which he got a lot of credit for and I'm sure a lot of business for. But a lot of buyers that they just, as soon as they got to know, like, and trust me, they did business with me.
Gotcha.
And everybody I met coming through that door, I did my best to collect their information. And then I also did my best to bring them value every month to make sure that I owned a piece of their brain space when they close their eye.
Gotcha.
Close their eyes at night and think of that plumber, that realtor, that lawyer. I just wanted to be that number 1 or number 2. That's it.
That's cool. And that's a great way to meet people because you might meet a buyer that's on vacation, right? That's not going to buy for another 2 years. But, you know, because you didn't have commission breath of just like,
bingo.
You know,
yes.
and that's
they can smell that.
Yeah, people can sense that, and you can almost see. I'm sure you've seen it where if someone says, "Oh, I'm here on vacation," you know, I'm just looking maybe in the next couple of years, you can see the body language change of maybe an agent they're talking to versus just being like, "Oh, that's great," you know, like, what can in the meantime, like, how can I help you?
Right.
Because they might buy it tomorrow. You know, they might not just be ready, you know, right now.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
So you did the open houses. You're building that up. How, you know, what's kind of your journey at Keller Williams? I mean, talk to me about you're now a top producer. So how many units are you? I don't know how they measure real estate. Is it volume or?
Yeah, it's kind of both. Some people look at the volume. Some people look at number of homes sold. In 2023, I sold 28 homes.
Nice.
Well, units. So a unit could be land, it could be condo, it could be a single family home, could be commercial. So about 28 units total on the year, and just shy of 19 million in volume for last year.
Nice.
So
awesome.
Pretty happy with that. The goal is 25 this year, so we'll see if we can hit it.
Okay. So how's this year been going so far?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I as long as everything stays on track, I'm on track to beat 25 as it is right now.
Cool.
Yeah, I just have to stay accountable.
Yeah.
You know, and in real estate, it's tough to stay accountable unless you have an accountability partner. So a lot of Keller Williams training will teach you to have an accountability partner.
Do you have one?
I do.
Who is it?
It's my wife.
Nice. Perfect.
Yeah.
You'll be in double trouble.
She's
That's
like,
good.
babe, we need to afford diapers this year, so you better start calling.
That's a good one.
Yeah. We just had our first little girl, so we go through a lot of diapers.
Congrats on being a dad.
Thanks.
So did you, I guess now it's like, do you help mainly buyers or sellers, or has it been this will probably walk us into what the market's doing, but is it I mean, I know in 2020 and 2021 and 2022-ish, things were crazy, right? So what's the market like now? Are you helping mainly buyers? You know, who do you mainly work? Let me just stop all that. And who do you mainly like to work with if you could pick?
Sellers ideally.
Okay.
And mainly because it's a more predictable sale, and as long as you can have a legitimate conversation, a come to Jesus moment with that seller, they're going to sell their property.
Yeah.
A lot of agents out there, I've heard them say this, that they're afraid of listings and they're afraid of sellers, and that's probably because they haven't been trained properly. The greatest leverage of time for a realtor is to have listings.
Yeah, because then you have inventory, right?
You can control the market, you can control pricing, you can control your schedule, and if you can control your schedule, you can control your income. With buyers, you can only handle maybe 3 or 4 active buyers at any given time. Any more than that, you're going to go crazy. Sellers, I could handle 10 to 15 at any given time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have, I mean, I guess from my perspective, as if I'm a buyer, you know, especially in Kona, you know, if you're looking at the west side of the Big Island, it's not like we have a lot of inventory. So you're working with, if you're trying to work with 5 buyers, they might be looking at, you know, the same homes or similar homes, and then trying to find, let's say they get pre-qualified, they're ready to rock, you know, they can buy something, right? Well, finding something they can buy is now the next thing. And then something they want to buy, right, is probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, back in 21 when the market was absolute insanity, it was really tough to work with buyers. And I felt for them because, you know, we were getting outbid on a lot of stuff. Yes, I helped a lot of buyers close on their properties, but, you know, the amount of offers I wrote per buyer was ridiculous. And the amount of contingencies they had to drop in order to get into that home was also ridiculous.
Like the inspection and...
No inspection, no appraisal contingency, non-refundable earnest money.
Wow.
These things are unheard of.
Yeah.
You know, but in 21, that was the norm. You know, if you weren't doing that, you weren't a serious buyer.
Yeah, you're in the stack, you're gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, the average listing would come on, and within 4 days, they had 10 offers.
Wow.
How are you going to rise to the top?
And especially, you know, you know, you're competing with other financing offers, right? So, like, obviously the cash buyer walks in the room and is just going to drop the hammer.
Of
but
course.
If that's not in there, like you said, you know, earnest money, you know, not essentially giving them $5,000 to $10,000 no matter what.
Non-refundable, right?
Non-refundable, you know. How does the? I guess I'm curious on the appraisal. How do they waive the contingency on the appraisal? So
what they're saying is, if the appraisal comes in low, you can't use that as a reason to get out of the contract.
Gotcha. Okay.
And if it does come in low, buyer agrees up front to foot the difference.
Gotcha. So that you have to have funds to be able to.
Right.
Yeah.
So contract price is, say for example, $600,000, and the appraisal comes in at $575,000. You can't negotiate with the seller on that spread. It's the buyer's responsibility to foot that difference.
Wow. Yeah, because the lender's not just going to go for the lesser of the two.
Right.
You know.
Right. So that was a tough market for buyers. Sellers were licking their chops. They couldn't wait to put their property in the market.
Yeah.
It's now we have more of a normalized market, which is nice for everybody. Yes, the rates have gone up quite a bit, but for everybody involved, they're much more of on a level playing field right now, in my opinion.
Okay. So just as before, where it was insanely competitive and really, I mean, unless you had a ton of cash, you know, for down and all these different things, you really weren't getting anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now you feel, you know, maybe first-time home buyers or people who are less financial would have a stronger position in today's market, even though the rate's higher.
I do. There's a lot less competition. I don't think we're ever going to see rates, you know, 3% and 4% ever again. I think once people get used to the fact, you know, they keep on seeing the 6 and 7s.
Yeah. They're
just going to get used to it, and they're just going to eventually buy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're going to forget about those 3%.
Well, and you can change I mean, you can eventually change the rate, you know, so you can't change the house you buy or the condo you buy or what you buy, but if the, you know, rates come down, which they do cyclically, like over time, just look at last 20 years, you know, they come down, you can, you know, refinance your home, and then, you know, the value of the home hopefully appreciates, so then that's on your side. So
and the ARMs have come back.
Yes.
Which are scary for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it is a way to acquire a home, and then hopefully they do really come down, and then you can refinance out of that ARM an adjustable rate mortgage into a 30-year fixed.
Do you see a lot of people doing ARMs lately?
Yeah, actually in the last 12 months, I would say maybe 25% of my buyers did adjustable rate mortgages.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people are not afraid to, I mean, because you can still get out of those as well. I mean, it's not, but some people really want to know fixed, like this is no variable cost, this was going to be, and then some people are willing to bet on the market a little bit and say, hey, this is going to go down. Yeah. I mean, I know when we had talked about a property you were buying, you were looking at ARMs, and that was like, I think it was at the pretty much the peak of the rate.
That was the peak.
Yeah, so which was good that you didn't. I know we were talking about a fixed option, but it just didn't make sense because we were hoping it wasn't going to stay where it was at.
And everybody seems to think that when we get closer to an election, that interest rates are going to go down. I actually did my own research looking into that, and there was a couple of studies that were recently done that proved that wasn't true. They looked at all election years, all the way back until 1972, and they took averages, and it wasn't true. It is a very insignificant change.
Okay.
So we'll see if that holds true coming into this upcoming election.
So that's interesting, and that's part of it's interesting the media's effect on the market is crazy because it's you'll get texts from people who are like the market's going to crash. So I mean, I don't want to quote, I'm not an economist or anything like that, but I think that the market here, at least in Hawaii, you have a huge demand and low supply, and even I think it's like 10,000 something housing units that the county's short right now for housing. So, I mean, what's your kind of opinion on the prices of things right now, and where do you think the market's going? Because I don't really believe there's going to be a crash here as long as the demand stays up, because there's not enough supply and there's a huge demand. So,
Well, that's economics 101. I mean, if
I've passed that class, actually.
Yeah, really? Good. If you have very little supply of something, the price always goes up. And that's exactly what we're experiencing right now. Back in 2020 and 2021, the Big Island had anywhere between 3,500 and 4,000 homes for sale at any given time in those 2 years. If you look at the inventory levels now, we're less than 2,000.
Wow.
That isn't changing. So I think prices are going to continue to go up, and we are not building homes locally or nationally at the levels they should be to keep up with population growth. And when you compile that with how hard it is to get new building permits, and I mean, you're doing a re-subdivision right now, and it's so slow and painful. I mean, the county just makes you jump through all these painful hoops.
And the cost too. I mean, I got a quote, to build, and this was someone who was going to be the GC, so they would be the GC and pull the permits. I would have to be the GC to make it reasonable, but it's $400 to $700 a square foot to build.
Yeah, that's insane.
And it's like, I mean, he's talking about a 1,500 square foot house, 1,800. It's like $600,000. I'm like, I could sell the land and overpay for a house that's built and not deal with the 3 years of,
Right.
So that's part of, I think, another thing too that people don't realize if they're new to this market is how long and expensive it is to build. I mean, if you have deep pockets and you're like, I want to build this house, awesome, but it's not, I've seen a couple lots for sale in the Palisades area. And there's one that's still up there for $450,000. I don't know anything about it, but I can't imagine it would make sense to build a house versus just buy one there. Because of how long and how expensive it would be, you'd almost be backwards.
Yeah, and you're usually 2 years start to finish. Yeah. And those people in the skilled trades are so incredibly busy. And it might take you a year just to get plans and the approval on those plans from the county. And then you got to start building. And there's another year minimum.
Yep. And the money costs money, right? So you got capital tied up.
Yep. And then you're renting that whole time while you're waiting for that bill. It's a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that is why, in my opinion, there's so much unpermitted improvements on the island here, and why there's such a crazy movement down south on the Big Island to people just throw up unpermitted buildings all the time. Yeah. It's everywhere. Yeah. And I think the county's to blame 100%.
I agree. Yeah, I think if you looked at the process of how hard it is and what even like building an ohana, I was actually in the planning department, and I was overhearing a conversation of this guy who was trying to build an ohana for a travel nurse, and he's going through all the different rules and all the different permitting and all the different stuff. And you could hear in the guy's voice, he's like, I've been trying to do this for like a year and a half. I'm trying to do this for travel nurses. Like, he's just trying to build an ohana. So I think like even like accessory dwelling units and things like that, they make it so difficult that that's part of the, the housing
Yeah.
issues. I saw a fact of since 2008 in Hawaii, a lot of the laws they say are mainland buyers coming in, and I feel people's pain on that. I think there are people that buy houses and they just leave them empty, and that's your right to do if you own property. But statistically, since 2008, there's been less and less out-of-state buyers for Hawaii. So if you look at that statistic, I can't say that's the statistic that's causing the housing crisis, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more to do with the building and the planning department than there is anything else.
Yeah. I mean, it's common knowledge that we have a housing crisis here in Hawaii, but you would think that the county would adopt that common sense into their planning and permitting side of things.
Yeah.
They have no common sense in that department.
Yeah.
I might piss off some people by saying this, but
No,
it's so true.
Yeah.
There's zero common sense in that department.
It's painful. It is painful.